Hello, everyone. My name is Don, the movie reviewer, and today we are going to be doing quick reviews.
We're going home, Izzy.
Forgive me.
Transformers: The Last Night. This is directed by none other than the great Michael Bay. I was not a fan of the first Transformers movie. I mean, when it first came out, I liked it. I was a lot younger, but now that I watch it, I think it's garbage. Second one's garbage. They're all garbage, and they just get worse and worse. And so with this last one, The Last Night, I avoided it at all costs. I didn't go to the theater to watch it because I really didn't want to see this. And so when it came out, I avoided it like the plague. But I did rent it and I watched it, and it was worse than I expected. It's like one of those movies that every time the viewer watches it, you feel your IQ just drop, like you're growing a tumor in your brain and you're gonna die. I couldn't take it. And to be honest with you, I skimmed through it because it's like it started and I was like, okay, the Merlin stuff is kind of funny, Stanley Tucci, whatever.
God, I'm sozzled. One last nip.
But then as it goes along, it just gets worse. And then there's this junkyard thing with this girl. And then Mark Wahlberg shows up, and I'm just not into it at all. And so I kind of skimmed through the movie, and then I watched one part where it felt like it was Suicide Squad, where it introduces these robots and it gives them names, but they really don't mean anything to this. It's just for laughs or something. So I skimmed through it some more and reached all the way to the end. And the ending of the movie is crap. This movie sucks. And I admit I didn't watch it through from the beginning to the end straightforward because I just couldn't handle it. And I will give Transformers: The Last Night a freaking F, a big fat 0 out of 10. This movie is absolutely atrocious. I don't know how they keep making these because I guess it makes a lot of money overseas, but here in the United States, it doesn't. I mean, it still makes money and people still like it, which is great. But if I had children, I would keep them away from this because their brains will be rotten by the time they get older and they'll be stupid just like me. So avoid The Last Night at all cost.
Our team is the elite of the elite. The heart and soul of this very beach.
We protect when no one wants to protect. And we go above and beyond.
Drugs, murder.
All this started once Leeds took over.
I thought we were lifeguards. Everything that you guys are talking about sounds like a really entertaining but far-fetched TV show.
If you want me, you can have me.
Some other time.
Baywatch, starring my favorite man of all time, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or now he's just Dwayne Johnson because he doesn't wrestle anymore. But personally, I think he should go back to wrestling because I loved him as a wrestler, and he's cool as a movie star. But from what I've seen of his filmography, it's mediocre or garbage. I haven't really seen anything tremendous from him as an actor. I mean, it's not him. He's a good actor, but his movies, they're just kind of just mediocre or garbage. And it's with Baywatch, it's absolutely garbage. It is one of the worst movies I have seen this year. And I wasn't even looking forward to this. I avoided it in the theater. I was I'm not watching this. This looks so stupid. I mean, I love the first two 21 Jump Street movies, with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. Those movies are actually funny because they know what they're doing. They're not taking it too seriously. And they're still copying the premise from the original TV series, but and implementing it into their movie, but with a twist, and then putting their like goofy stuff in it. And it's funny, and I like it. And with Baywatch, it felt like they were trying to mimic what 21 Jump Street did. And it doesn't work with every single franchise, obviously. Like with Baywatch, they should have just left that alone altogether. I mean, it could have worked. I mean, any movie could be good or great. But with this, whoever wrote this, whoever came up with this, they didn't know what they were doing. And I will admit, I didn't finish this movie because I couldn't take it anymore. Like, I watched the opening scene and immediately I said, F this movie. I couldn't take it. Like the just opening title with the Baywatch symbol coming down, and you see the rock and it's all exaggerated. And I'm like, okay, cool. They kind of know what they're doing with this. Like they're not taking it seriously and they want to be goofy. I mean, you got Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron like lifting refrigerators and stuff, which is whatever, but and there's like sex appeal in here because you got Alexandria Daddario and she's absolutely gorgeous. And, so like just like Pamela Anderson in the original series, they have the same elements, like I said with 21 Jump Street, but for some reason this just didn't land with me. It wasn't funny. I didn't laugh. It was a headache to watch. And I didn't care as a generic story, as mediocre. I didn't care. I didn't care about nothing that was happening on screen. It looked god awful. So I will give this movie, Baywatch, 2017, big fat F. This movie's 0 out of 10. It's awful. Stay away from this movie. It's not funny. The characters in here are completely forgettable. Dwayne Johnson, man, come on. Like, I like you, man. And it's like, you can do better than this, man. Like, he was great in Snatch. Dwayne Johnson was great in Snatch. Please go back to dramatic stuff. Please.
You're going off to find your college. It's not this special. That night, my mind drifted back to college. So many friends have become successful. Craig Fisher worked for the White House. Jason Hatfield had his own hedge fund. Billy Wursler sold his tech company at 40. What do I have? I work for a nonprofit and nothing to show for it.
Do I sound jaded? I started out as idealistic as any of your friends over there.
You're 50 years old and you still think that the world was made for you.
Oh, I'm 47.
Dad, you having some kind of nervous breakdown or something?
Under pressure.
Brad Status, starring Ben Stiller, Austin Abrams. This movie, I saw the trailer for it. I wasn't intrigued. But, I said, hey, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So I watched it, and I'm not really a big fan of Ben Stiller. I don't really like Ben Stiller movies all that much. I can't, nothing comes to mind from anything that I like from Ben Stiller. Like, yeah, there was something about Mary that came out, but I'll be honest with you, I've never watched that movie, There's Something About Mary, in its entirety. I just haven't. And then there's, Meet the Parents or Meet the Fockers and all that stuff, and I really haven't watched those movies all the way through either. And then there was Neighborhood Watch with him and Jonah Hill and Vince Vaughn, and I didn't care for that either. I did watch that in its entirety, but I'm not a big fan of Ben Stiller, and I did see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't care about that movie either. I don't care about Ben Stiller movies. I just don't. So when I heard about this, it's like, whatever. But I watched it. And I really hate Ben Stiller's character. He's just whiny the whole time. And I guess people do act like that, where they do become jealous of someone else's success. And then they start just hating themselves and blaming other people for them not being successful. And that's what he does throughout this entire movie. He's just constantly being negative. Now, it's like, I can say I hate this movie because he's doing that, but then at the same time, it's like, I can enjoy a movie where where the main character, let's say I don't like the main character in the movie, but I can still end up enjoying that character's journey and enjoying the movie. Now, with this character that Ben Stiller's playing in here, I'm interested in his journey because I want to find out what's going to happen, but then I'm not interested in the character all that much because he's just constantly whining and complaining about everything to the point I'm just like really mad. Like pretty much everything that comes out of his mouth really pissed me off because he's just constantly saying, well, what if I had this? And then there's some crap where he's daydreaming about his son being successful. And then he's counteracting that, well, I'm going to leech off my son's success. Or, but what if my son becomes so successful that he forgets about me and shames me? Now I hate my own son and all this stuff. And I guess those are real problems that most people do deal with, where it's like they don't feel like they've accomplished any thing that's significant in their lives compared to what someone else has accomplished who is close to them. Like in this movie, you know, he's got a friend who is friends with the president or something and has relationships with people in the White House. And then Brad looks at his status and then he says to himself, well, I haven't really accomplished anything. I just own a nonprofit. And so you kind of know where the movie's headed with a premise like this about a guy who's ashamed of like what he's accomplished so far in life. And it's like, hey, listen, you got to enjoy the little things, because when you look at this guy's life, even one of the girls in the movie that he meets and kind of tries to flirt with explains the situation to him like, yeah, man, like you don't know what you have. You have everything that everyone pretty much wants, you know? And it's like, you just don't realize that you're being too selfish and self-absorbed that you aren't seeing what you actually have versus what you want. So it's that kind of a movie. But then when the way Ben Stiller just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, talking about it and then looking at his friends and talking about it, it really made me mad. But then the movie didn't get any better with like showing like, okay, his friends are actually on drugs. Like one friend, you know, we first meet him and then the portrayal of him is like, oh yeah, he's this big shot and he's got 2 girlfriends. And really, no, he does drugs and he's a meth addict and does cocaine and his life's not so great. Then Luke Wilson is in here, and I haven't seen Luke Wilson in a very long time. But then he's also one of the wealthy friends, and Ben Stiller like is jealous of him too. But then it's like, oh, he's not jealous of him anymore because now Luke Wilson has a problem with his life with his kids, and it's a horrific thing. So it's like, okay, now we're supposed to feel better for Brad, Ben Stiller's character, because okay, his rich friends are suffering from situations in life that are harsh. It's like we look at them from a distance and he's saying, oh yeah, they're rich and they're snobs and all this stuff, when Ben Stiller's character himself is being a snob. Then all of a sudden he feels better about himself once he realizes that his friends aren't doing so well in their life as he thought they were, you know. And then by the end he meets one of his friends and talks with him and then walks away. And then the movie, after all of this building up and all this stuff that annoyed me and all this reveal about his rich friends and who they really are, the movie just abruptly ends. It just ends. This is a very short movie. It's not that long, and it just ends. And it's like, there's no real conclusion. There's a conclusion, kind of, you know, like with Ben Stiller's like mental state of mind, like from where he was to the end, but there was no real conclusion. So I wasn't really satisfied with the movie. So going from starting with the beginning and then going all the way to the end of it, for that whole runtime, pretty much, I was just mad at Ben Stiller. I wanted him to shut up. I didn't like his personality. I didn't like the way he was thinking, but then that's how most people think, I guess. But then I didn't like anything about his character. I don't care about Ben Stiller movies. There's no conclusion to this thing. And then the moral of the story is like, rich people, yeah, you can be jealous of them, but I guarantee you'll feel better about yourself once you know that they have something tragic going on in their lives, and their lives ain't so, like, you know, as great as you thought it was. So overall, with this movie, I really didn't like it, and so I will give Brad's status a big fat F. I hate this movie. I do not like Ben Stiller movies. I don't know about him as an actor. I think he's good as an actor, but his movies are just, they don't really hit the mark for me. They don't do it. And with this, it's just really like, it irritated me throughout the whole thing because he's just whining all the time. And then they got this fucking long ass montage scene of him saying, like, him narrating, talking to this girl about his life and everything. And it's like, come on, this goes on forever, man. And it's just like, this movie to me has no heart. it has no heart. It tries to with like this corny music and then like his life, and it's just like there's no heart to this movie. We don't know anyone except for Brad, who constantly complains all the time, and then we don't know jack shit about his son except he likes music, and that's it. They focus on Ben Stiller too much, and then by the time...
What are the biggest challenges in running a museum?
We're a museum of modern and contemporary art, so we need to present art that is the art of today, art that is absolutely cutting edge, and the competition is fierce.
Her til efteråret præsenterer vi den argentinske kunstner og sociolog Lola Arias og hendes udstilling, som hedder The Square.
Vi kan ikke som museum lade os skræmme af udtrykte overskridede grænser. Det kan vi ikke gøre.
Nu är det dags för mat och vi har dukat fram en fantastisk buffé. Svampfylld rostad majskyckling med... Jag vill jättegärna ta det lite lugnt. Ja, men lugnt!
If you place an object in a museum, for instance, if we took your bag and placed it here, would that make it art?
Okay.
The Square is a Swedish film. It's an independent movie. I remember seeing a trailer for this at my local independent movie theater. Support your local indie movie theaters. Can't remember what movie I was watching, but this trailer popped up, and it looked really, it intrigued me. It looked interesting, and it looked like it had the potential to be funny. And so I was like, I have to see this movie. I'm game. And once I got to the theater and this thing started, it had my interest. It had my interest because the main actor in here, who plays Christian, he was great in this movie. He did a phenomenal job with his character, and you know, I could understand where he was coming from as a character. Like he owns this museum called the Square, and it's brand new, and he wants it to succeed. And they have like all of these. His character has all these shenanigans in the movie. Like there's a moment where his cell phone gets taken, and they kind of don't do anything with it, but it's like his cell phone gets taken at the very beginning of the movie, and an interesting moment during the film. And then that one moment leads into like him going into different shenanigans throughout, where it's like him and his friend go to the apartment building where they tracked his phone, and they leave like a note in every person's mailbox at their door saying, oh yeah, I know who you are, give me back my phone. And then it leads into something else with a kid later on down the line and all this stuff, which was interesting, but it didn't go anywhere. But I will say this, Elizabeth Moss, who plays Annie in this movie, is great. The stuff between her and the main actor is good. I love that stuff. And there's another guy in here named Terry Natare, and his scenes are really good. They're bizarre, and they were intriguing. But then here's the thing, this movie as a whole, it's not all that good. It's not funny. It has some like funny scenes, like moments in here that happen that are good, but just when I'm watching the thing from beginning to end, by the end of the movie, I was really disappointed when I reflected on it, because like when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, here's a funny moment. Okay, like there's one scene that I really loved in here involving a condom between the female and the actor, and it was really funny.
What do you want to...
Let go of it.
Cuddle?
No,
You let
it's
go.
mine. You can't get it.
It's not yours, Christian. Let go.
No.
Yes, you're acting like a child.
I'm not letting go.
Let go.
No.
I'm gonna let go if you don't let go.
Let go then.
You let go.
It's gonna break.
Yes, it is.
Let go.
Give it to me.
Let...
there's moments in here that are funny. Then you reach the end of the movie, and then I'm reflecting on it, and I'm just like, it's not something I'd really watch again. I didn't find it all that funny afterward, and it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh in this movie. I wanted to give it an F, but now reflecting on it, I think I'll give it a C minus. I'd give it a C minus because it did have some funny moments in there that did make me laugh, that were memorable. But by the end of it, I just really didn't care about anything that was happening, and most of the stuff didn't make sense. And I feel like most of the scenes didn't really need to be here because it didn't feel like a collective whole. It just felt like random stuff put on screen that wasn't cohesive. And yeah, that's it. I didn't really like the squirrel that much.
Top of your class in the Civil Air Patrol. A pilot like you shouldn't be flying buses.
Welcome to Miami. Welcome to Bakersfield.
Haven't you ever wanted something more, Barry?
You should be serving your country.
You're CIA.
You are an airline pilot, Barry. That's how you support this family.
This is gonna be good for us.
I was working for the CIA, the DEA, and
Pablo Escobar.
1,500 kilos.
That's
1,500 kilos, Barry.
in one go.
Get it done.
This is the United States Drug Enforcement Agency. We are ordering you to land.
All right, boys, let's land. Easy.
That's for the damage. For your sister, hey, little darling, and your back. You never saw me.
American Made, starring the man himself, Tom Cruise, Domhnall Gleeson, and Sarah Wright. American Made. I wasn't really interested in the movie at first, but I am a fan of Tom Cruise. Like, I don't really care about his personal life. I just want to see a good movie, and Tom Cruise is a good actor. I like his Mission Impossible movies. They just get better and better. They're just more fun than what they used to be, but the first Mission Impossible is still the best one, I think. But Tom Cruise as an actor, he's either hit or miss for me. Like, I saw him in this movie called Magnolia, and I think he's kind of bad in that. But then, in other stuff, like you see him in Tropic Thunder, he's funny. Or I think one of his best performances is Collateral. Like, he played a vicious character, and he's great. So I was really surprised and happy to see Tom Cruise actually acting, because in everything pretty much before this, it's just action, and it's like, okay, yeah, we know Tom Cruise can do action. He's in his 50s. He looks great for his age. He's in shape. He can jump, do most of his own stunts, which is great. But I want to see him act. And in American Made, I don't think Tom Cruise disappoints. He shows that he is one of the heavyweights in Hollywood as an actor. The man knows how to act and hold his own ground. Now, this is based on a true story about a pilot, or someone who was a pilot and then worked for the CIA smuggling, and he also smuggled drugs to Pablo Escobar and took photographs for the CIA of criminals overseas in Cuba, and just a bunch of shenanigans that this actual person got into named Barry Seal. And I don't know anything about this guy, Barry Seal, so I only know what the movie tells me. And it's directed by Doug Liman, and I didn't know that. But that's very interesting because Doug Liman is one of my favorite directors. He did my favorite movie, Swingers, which is really good. He also directed the recent action flick that was good with Tom Cruise called Edge of Tomorrow, which is a really good movie. Supposedly they're working on a sequel together. So when I'm watching this, I don't know if Doug Liman has a signature style that he uses when he directs. But American Made is perfectly directed. It's directed in kind of like how Johnny Depp's movie Blow was. It's directed in kind of it's a documentary, so it's kind of grainy looking. At first, I thought the movie wasn't all that interesting because it kind of we're introduced to Barry Seal, we meet his wife, and we see his home life, And I'm like, okay, so it's a pretty slow start, because it's setting up everything. But I feel like the meat of the movie, the middle section, Act 2, is the most interesting stuff. And then by the end of it, the movie really hit home for me, and I liked it by the end. What I will say is this movie isn't 100% serious. I will say this movie definitely has a good balance of comedic humor mixed with a serious tone. So there's comedy and drama in here, and I think they meshed well together here. Doug Liman did a fantastic job merging those two different aspects of film together, and the way it shot is great. I was definitely engaged in the story by the second half of seeing where Barry Allen was going, and then by the end, I did feel for his character. I mean, it does go in places where you'd expect it to go from a movie like this that is involving, drug cartels and smuggling and arms deals and all sorts of just crazy shenanigans. But I did end up having fun with this movie, and by the end of it, I had a blast. I thought it was funny. I did like the dramatic stuff in here too. I overall liked American Made, and so I will give American Made an A-. I had a good time with it. I like Tom Cruise in this, and hopefully Tom Cruise does more roles like this where he just acts. He doesn't have to run and jump over things or be in explosions and all that stuff. Like, I don't think Tom Cruise had to run in this movie one time, which is great. Please continue to just be a dramatic actor or act in a comedy without running.
Rich city folk live in fancy apartments, but their air is so polluted they can't even see the stars. We'd have to be out of our minds to trade places with any of them.
Dr. Taylor said we should go into real school.
A real school, huh?
This is as real as it gets, kids. You learn from living.
You shouldn't be ashamed of us just because we choose a different lifestyle than you. Why did you lose your sense of adventure?
I told you so. You ain't like me.
I am like you, and I'm glad.
The Glass Castle, starring Brie Larson, Woody Harrelson, and Naomi Watts. This was a pretty interesting movie. When I first heard about it, it wasn't all that interesting to me. I didn't really care for watching it, but my girlfriend, who saw the movie with her mother, recommended it to me. And I said, all right, I'll give it a shot, because she and I kind of have the same taste. So I watched the movie, and Woody Harrelson was interesting. He plays the father to Brie Larson's character, and the whole movie is just like we're watching Brie Larson in present time and then observing her relationship with her father through flashbacks, which kind of annoyed me. I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe the movie could have played out in a chronological manner. But I guess the movie wanted to convey a sense of mystery as to why Brie Larson, because when we first meet Brie Larson in this movie, she's lying about what her parents' profession is. Because when we learn what her parents really do in the movie, they're homeless. Because her dad is like this fanatic about the government, and he's like anti-establishment and F the man and all that stuff. And she's a bit ashamed by that. And she's getting married, and she wants her father to approve. And that's really important to her. So then by the end, as the movie goes along, she's coming to know who she is as a person, and learning that all of the lessons that her father taught her throughout the years of her life may have been harsh, but they have formed her to be the person that she is. So by the end, I guess, she's going to come to a realization as to who she really is. And it was a pretty good movie. It was interesting. I like Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson the best actor, one of the best actors working today. Like, he's great and everything. Naomi Watts is Naomi Watts. Brie Larson, she's fine, nothing epic. Only actor that I think shines in here is Woody Harrelson. I feel like he carries the movies on his shoulder because every scene that he's in is just phenomenal. And Brie Larson, I mean, she does a good job. Naomi Watts does a good job. The stuff with the flashbacks was interesting, and then seeing her in present time was interesting. But I do wish that it could have been chronologically told in a straightforward way, and I think it would have been more compelling because the flashbacks did kind of annoy me, but that's just a personal gripe that I have. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I will give The Glass Castle a solid B. It could have been more dramatic. It could have been better. Yes, it's based on a true story, which is fine. And at the end of the movie, we see some actual archive footage from the family. Overall, it was solid. It was a solid movie. I liked The Glass Castle, but it could have been better. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.